Hello, my name's Amanda Dunsmore and I'm Senior Curator of International Decorative Arts and Antiquities here at the National Gallery of Victoria. I'm delighted to welcome you here to our virtual tour of our 2024 Melbourne Winter Masterpieces exhibition, Pharaoh, presented by HSBC. The NGV has partnered with the British Museum on this landmark exhibition which celebrates 3,000 years of ancient Egyptian art and culture. Many of these works are on display for the very first time in Australia. This exhibition is exclusive to Melbourne and it is the largest ancient Egyptian exhibition that's ever been seen in Australia. And it's my pleasure to be talking today with Dr. Marie van den Busch. Marie is the curator of funerary culture of the Nile Valley at the British Museum, and she's also the curator of our Pharaoh exhibition.
Thank you very much, Amanda, and it's such a pleasure to be here today and to show you around the exhibition.
Well, let's go and have a look at some of the works in this exhibition. We're here in the next room of the exhibition that's looking at aspects of kingship, in particular royal regalia and names. Marie, perhaps you could tell us a little bit more about some of the key thematics.
So this section is really about trying to understand a bit more how to recognize a king in sculpture and in reliefs.
We're standing right next to this magnificent sculpture of King Seti II.
It's magnificent, and it's I have to say, one of my favorite pieces in the exhibition for a lot of different reasons. One of them, it's almost complete. There's just a small part of the statue which is missing, is the snout of the ram, which is placed on top of the knees of the king. One element which is really fundamental when you want to recognize a king is, for example, the snake, the urus that you have on the forehead. And that's something that you can see on the head of Seti II that you have here.
We're now going to move on to our next room of the exhibition. So we're just coming into the next room, which really looks at the king as high priest of the temple. And this magnificent lintel is from a temple in the Fayum and was commissioned by King Amenemhat III.
Yeah, this is a magnificent piece. You can see the symmetry, which is quite impeccable. In the middle, you have the cartouche of the King Amenemhat, and on both sides, you have other names of the king reaching in one direction, and on the other direction, you have the name of the god of the temple. And in this case, that was a crocodile god, and you have the crocodile represented on the far right and the far left.
We're going to move on to our next object now. We're standing in front of this magnificent recumbent lion made of red granite. Can you tell us a little bit about the king that commissioned this sculpture?
So this lion was produced during the reign of Amenhotep III. And Amenhotep III was a very, very great builder of temples, of sculptures. And this piece is really a very good example of the kind of sculpture that he produced. What is interesting is that it was not only done and used during the reign of Amenhotep III, but was also recarved by Tutankhamun, who was his grandson.
We're going to walk through past the Sekhmet sculptures into our next section of the exhibition now. We're coming now into this next gallery, which has a more calming feeling to it. It's a real highlight of the exhibition. In fact, it's 180 works of jewellery from the British Museum's collection. So we're just going to look at some of the works in this case here. And this case looks at the power of symbols. The necklace at the top is full of amulets that had protective magical qualities for the wearer.
Yeah, and quite a lot of them are in the shape of body parts.
Oh, yes.
And quite often we think that it's also funerary. So if you lose your hand or your foot in the afterlife, you actually continue to have it
Magically, when
Yes.
you wore this amulet.
Absolutely.
Oh, that's amazing. So now we're going to go have a look at our next object.
Absolutely.
So we're coming into this next room of the exhibition, which looks at high officials and scribes and priests, those people that supported the king in their administration. And it blows my mind, Marie, I have to say, looking at this couple and thinking that they were actually alive at the time when the pyramids of Giza were being built.
Yeah, this is a magnificent statue. It represents a couple Kateb and his wife Hetaperes. And what I found really fascinating is the preservation of color. And you have to imagine that quite a lot of statues in ancient times were actually as colorful as that.
So we're coming into this next space, which is really, we're entering the afterlife, aren't we? And we're surrounded by objects from royal tombs. And we're standing here in front of this case of 12 Shabti figures. 6 of them on the top row belonged to foreign pharaohs, and the 6 along the bottom row belonged to Egyptian pharaohs.
Shabti figures are absolutely fantastic and very useful because they are meant to be used in the afterlife for all the work that the deceased, and in this case the king, needed to do. The afterlife was not part of the normal life, but you still need to do some work. So ancient Egyptians, clever as they were, decided to produce a series of figures that represented themselves and allowed them to do their work for themselves.
So we're going to finish with one more object in the last room of the exhibition. We have this really extraordinary coffin here, Marie, and it's decorated with a very particular imagery over the base of it. So tell us what we're looking at here.
Yeah, this coffin has at the bottom of the base a representation of a king. And that's not really what you would expect from a coffin belonging to someone who has nothing to do with the royal family.
Okay. So this particular private individual would, by association, physical association of being placed on top of the king, I guess, enjoy the benefits of the king's divinity, essentially?
That's absolutely a way to look at it. And it's also a way to create another connection, another layer of connection.
Yeah,
you have the gods, you have the king, and you have
private individuals.
Absolutely.
That's fascinating. Thank you so much, Marie. Well, this brings us to the end of our virtual tour today, and we'd like to thank HSBC for supporting it. And of course, I'd like to thank you, Marie, for your time and generosity in taking us on a tour today through this magnificent exhibition.
It was wonderful to be part of this tour, and please don't forget to come and visit the exhibition until October the 6th.
Don't miss it.